You once said that you think that Llama, or like in offline in conversation, you said that Llama 2 will probably be used in production still in 10 years at enterprises.
Yeah.
This I have struggled to believe in, but please
So
make the case.
I think this goes into the direction of like how often do enterprises like really like see a reason to change their systems, right? Like for example, um one of those like one of the verticals that's going incredibly well is just like customer support type vertical where effectively like you're doing AI based customer support. And because this is just such a step change bigger and better than basically the human based alternatives. um uh, like this actually like is the first time that like enterprises are driven to like make a change and like to look at new vendors and to like check this out for them. But once they've committed to one of those and like in absence of like another like 10x change like that happening, right? They are incredibly reluctant to change anything about a system that is working for them, right? And if that system, like as it was deployed 2 years ago, is using Llama 2, right? It will continue using Llama 2 in the future because like the risk of changing it to anything else probably outweighs any like cost or like immediate term intelligence benefits, right? Like there's no slideshow that you could make to convince them that like, oh, like this will be so much smarter, right? Because it can do arithmetic better, right? They'll look at, oh, our completion rates look totally okay, but I'm totally happy with those, right? Right. And like, oh, this might be cheaper. It's like, yeah, no, not really. Like, and this is the same with like, this is the classical like enterprise stickiness. Like, once you've gotten people used to doing it this way, and like, again, like a group of people will work around this because there's going to be a failure mode for Llama 2, right? That is like very specific to Llama 2. And like people are going to like develop processes, they're going to develop documentation to handle those downsides, right? It's going to be like, oh, Llama 2 always does this mistake. So like let me fix that quickly, like in this conversation, et cetera, et cetera. And if you were not to change that, like they'd have to completely redo their customer support handbook, right? Because it was now designed to like utilize that model. And like it just becomes incredibly difficult. And like the most difficult thing in the world and like is changing people's minds, right? It's also the one of the few like really important things on like everything, right? Basically, startup people try to change people's minds on like, hey, this is how I believe the future to be, versus what currently the future is going to be without me, or like this is the future, it's going to happen, and I'm going to be there. This is what politicians try to do, right? Their entire job is trying to convince people to do something else, right? And like basically this is the scourge of human existence, and it's one of the most difficult things you can do. And that's why you won't end up changing the technology. And it's like, yeah. And also like all those things like model changing isn't drop in, right? If you've designed a prompt to like do something, right? I can't take the same prompt to a different kind of service and expect the same performance. Like the failure modes will be different. It'll do some other stuff weirdly, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And effectively, like, yeah, like for 10 years, there won't be big enough of an engineering like demand to actually change this out and do this differently. Um,
But surely the difference between Llama 2 and Llama 4, or like Llama 5 or whatever, like the surely, even if you don't change the prompt, surely, I agree that probably there's another prompt that is better for Llama 5 than for Llama 2. But I think the Llama 2 prompt with Llama 5 will still be much better than the Llama 2 prompt with Llama 2.
but
And yes, this will like make all of your like engineering effort to filter out the failure modes redundant, sure. So it would be a bit sad for the engineers that actually implemented this. But if you
no,
deliver better service,
I'm not talking about the engineers. I'm talking about like the customer support personnel that persists at these organizations, right? Who's like built processes around like managing those failures. Um, so maybe, right? And like to you and for your use, absolutely, right? But an enterprise is only deploying their customer support AI if they're happy with the resolution rates, like if they're happy with like how well it is performing that one task that they're currently hiring it for. Otherwise, they're not deploying it at all, right? Or they might, no, not really, right? And uh, um, and if they're happy with the resolution rates today, they're going to be just as happy with the resolution rates in 7 years, right? Like there's no immediately like burning issue, right? It's not like, oh, and like someone can show up, like you can show up to them and tell me if you change to Llama 5, your life will be better in like these 10 ways, but they're like, our life is fine. And like I'm taking a risk, and why would I take a risk, right? I'm happy
Well,
with current performance, right?
they're burning money on the Llama 2 70 million model, and then you can change it to Llama 5 1B, which is like the same performance, but like, and then you can say like, so you will save money. That's
But
something they will be.
that might be something, but like my assumption is serving Llama to 7E will just like basically cost nothing.
Okay, yeah, fair,
Yeah,
fair.
I think like that's the right. I actually think the NVIDIA product line announcement for 2020, like up until 2027, is quite disappointing, right? They love doing the oh, look at our flops, and it's all in FP and in
Yeah,
FP4, right? Whereas like yeah, like if I just projected performance from like we start at FP32, then we go to FP16, then to FP8, then to FP4, then to FP2, then to FP1, and infinite performance at FP0, um, then yeah, I think that's kind of like
I
cheating, but
wonder
yeah.
when they're at like FP1, how will they